Why do you keep speculating in a space like this? Within scams and ruggers and things. Damn me, you be getting liquidated by pretend inefficiency and the useless tokens like this. Why don't you quit all that and they give you your bags and shout that there's some money? Shout till it's just a lie, it's just a real call. I can do say how deep in your eyes, embrace the light. Come, let's hang around under the light. I'll have it for you, embrace the light. Finish some more, so look at the light.
Embrace the light, motherfucker.
Why do you keep speculating in a space like this? Within scams and ruggers and things. Damn me, you be getting liquidated by pretend inefficiency and the useless tokens like this. Why don't you quit all that and they give you your bags and shout that there's some money? Shout till it's just a lie, it's just a real call. I can do say how deep in your eyes, embrace the light. Come, let's hang around under the light. I'll have it for you, embrace the light. Finish some more, so look at the light.
Embrace the light, motherfucker.
Welcome to another episode of the Lite Hour Livestream. The Lite Hour Livestream is a Litecoin dedicated live stream that we host on the Flipping Finance page every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 5 p.m. EST. And it's a live stream where we keep the Litecoin conversation going one way or another. So if you're a supporter of Litecoin, or you just, have a mild interest in Litecoin, you like Litecoin, or you hate it bad enough to stalk it, then if you want somewhere that you're going to be able to keep track of the Litecoin conversation, then the Lite Hour live stream is definitely where you need to be. So today we got a very interesting topic that we are going to be touching on. Of course, just as the title suggests, reject Maxi classism. And now this is a title that I didn't just come up with because, well, I was looking for a cool title, but one that I actually came up with because I saw a tweet from someone pretty important in this space that hinted at some form of classism that has been, that they're sort of like trying to enforce around the idea of Bitcoin. And if you've been following this page for quite a few episodes now, you know that a few episodes ago I did in fact talk about my article that I wrote on essentially these classisms that I believe that Bitcoin maximalists have been trying to enforce in this space. And so when I saw this post, it definitely was one that caught my attention. So I thought it was one that we had to discuss and we had to talk about. So yeah, that's going to be the main thing we're going to be dissecting today, just talking about this particular topic on classism that has been the Bitcoin maximalists are sort of like trying to create and enforce. And also we're going to be hanging out. So of course, if you're stopping by, you want to say hi, you want us to chat and talk, of course you should know what to do. I'm going to be responding to the comments. We're going to be hanging out there. So yeah, that's beside the point. Anyways, before I begin this show properly, you guys know I have to give my guys at 84 million a shade-out. I'll have to give them a shade-out. So I'm going to be doing that in a second. If you like my hoodie that I'm putting on, of course, it is a very classic Litecoin hoodie that you can get at 84million.com. So 84million.com/shop. 84 million. These guys make very wonderful Litecoin merchandise. And if you are a supporter of Litecoin, or you're just someone who's mildly interested in Litecoin, then you know that you should go to 84million.com/shop to go check their products out. You can see they have real nice shirts, and they've got real nice hoodies. And let me see where this one is, because I did ask if they still had the one I'm wearing, and they said that they did in fact have it. So just want to see if I can scroll there and I could see it quick. Okay, let's do one more scroll if it's not here, which is gonna move. on. I hope it's here. I don't scroll one more. It's not here. Okay, so it's probably in one of these three. But yeah, of course, they definitely have it on their platform, 84million.com/shop show. So of course, if you want to get this hoodie as well, um, you should go to 84million.com/shop to go check it out. And that's that about that. So back to what we're talking about, guys. Today, now I'm going to be going into the tweet that caught my attention. The tweet itself that I saw, and which essentially inspired the title of this particular episode. And I'm going to bring it out in a few minutes. You just give me that. So okay, I've got it. I've got it in a folder that I named Reject Maxism. Reject Maxi Classism. So I have to just show that. I'm bringing that up right now. Boom. That's a stage. Ta-da! Look at it. That's it. That's it right there. Now I got it. That's it. And you can essentially see this tweet. And the first one, the one I want to talk about is this one from Hunter Horsley. Now, Hunter Horsley is in fact the CEO of Bitwise Invest. And if you don't know Bitwise, you're an asset manager, very, very, huge asset manager, crypto focused asset manager. You can see that CEO Bitwise Invest, $15 billion plus client asset, 7 years in crypto, formerly Facebook, Instagram, and Wharton. Husband, father, and caretaker of Winnie the Beagle. So yeah, it's pretty much someone who's very important in this space, right? This is a very, popular person and someone that has a lot of influence in the crypto community. And essentially the tweet he made, and you might have already seen it by now, in the future, the cost basis of your Bitcoin will be a good social status indicator. Buy any when it was buy any when it was, oh my god, my brain. Okay, buy any when it was in the hundreds, thousands, 20K, 60K, 250K. It indicates some things about a person. And now I know, right, just off of this tweet alone, you can't really extrapolate or sort of like derive a conclusion that this is some sort of like classism in like a sense of, oh, Bitcoin versus shitcoiners, right? This is essentially more of, yeah, I mean, you kind of know if this person is in the know, if it was kind of early to Bitcoin and that sort of social status. But it just shows, in my opinion, the mindset that has been driving this Bitcoin only perspective. And by the way, Bitwise are not Bitcoin maximalists. I mean, they're an asset manager that have issued multiple ETFs for Bitcoin, for Solana, for whatever the rest are. But it just shows the perception that these guys have been trying to create for Bitcoin. And just the idea that they could actually use Bitcoin as a sort of tool in order to create like some sort of classification within society where, you can kind of like segregate people and just say, oh, you're either in the know if you're, Bitcoin, whatever. And yeah, it's just, it's pretty interesting. And I think more people need to pay attention to it because it might seem benign, but it really isn't. This is how social class and social systems sort of like form. And it is just something that is the antithesis of everything that Litecoin is about. The antithesis of everything that Litecoin stands for, because Litecoin, in fact, stands for the everyday person. It's about usage. Litecoiners have always been about usage. Can you use it? Use Litecoin, spend Litecoin. It doesn't matter. There's no classism. It's all about if it works for you, use it. If it can work for you, use it. It's there to serve. And that kind of like highlights the whole perspective of the Litecoin community, as opposed to these guys that are like perpetuating or trying to create this sort of like class system around Bitcoin. So now this is from Hunter Horsley, and I'm going to go into another one. So this is from Knut Svanholm. I apologize if I butchered his name, but this is an interesting conversation I had with this Mr. or I don't know what their pronouns are, Knut Svanholm. So essentially, what started this entire conversation was a post he made, which I quote tweeted, and then he responded. And this, in my opinion, is a very clear indicator of what I've been saying for a while, that these people are in fact trying to build some sort of like class system, and they're kind of like trying to take advantage of the fact that Bitcoin dominance has sort of like been going up, and the rest of the alts have been significantly underperforming to do this. And I'm gonna get into more of that later, but let's look at this. So yeah, the biggest red flag of them all is, anyone who portrays Bitcoin maximalism as a problem or in any derogatory manner is either paid by a scammer or a scammer themselves. And this is the post. And essentially what I did was I quote tweeted the post and I said, now, another Bitcoin Maxi attempting to play class games by labeling anyone who disagrees with your Maxi ideology a scammer. So Bitcoin Maxis are intellectuals and disagreeers are scammers. This is how class structures form in broader societies, and these guys are trying to repeat the same within the crypto community. A label, even when untrue, becomes a stereotype when repeated long enough, and stereotypes become tools to elevate the in-group and subjugate the out-group. The solution is to ignore their games altogether, call it out for what it is, and refuse to play it. Once isolated India fully, the facade will fade away. Now, again, he goes ahead and, of course, my quote tweet by saying, yes, me and my crew are trying to reintroduce a bit of class divide into society. Actually, the opposite of equality is quality, and some of us would be super rich from being early, but everyone would benefit from ever falling prices. So now let's look at this, right? I go ahead and I respond. The opposite of equality is quality would be a bad stance if you simply backed the stance up with a technical foothold. An example of this is if Maxi has decided to only support and or reward coins that are censorship resistant, sound money is growing in adoption. In this way, there will be a logical framework upon which an intellectual or even ideological high ground can be claimed. Deciding to support just Bitcoin only on price performance reduces the framework behind maximalism to nothing more than a number go up fanboyism. Therefore, the entire framework of your classism is built on a cultural arbitrary, a facade, something shallow and flimsy. The best part is you guys know this. This is why you hide on the buzzwords such as intellectual honesty and immaculate conception, because y'all don't want to be seen as a shallow group with no care in the world for anything but money. So Maxis actually care about the principles. Where is that? I think I screwed that away. So Maxis actually care about the principles of sound money. However, but those ones are often quiet, leaving loudmouthed shallow Maxis to define what maximalism is about. And that is essentially my problem with the class systems that Bitcoin maximalists are trying to sort of like create, is not that the class systems, is because the class systems is not like the type would see amongst, let's say, academic scholars. I mean, in every subject, in every gathering of people, class systems form. It's natural, right? But it is a class system that is sort of like built like what we see in elitism, right? The form of elitism we've seen historically, and of course the form that we're still seeing in modern day, where the segregation isn't something flimsy. The segregation is not, let's say, there is this let's look at other class systems in society, right? So we can sort of like take away from let's separate the class systems that are hierarchical and just look at the class systems that are more segregatory, like religion, right? Multiple people, in different religious groups, and they can sort of like differentiate themselves, and that is sort of their way to like divide, themselves across these belief lines. And so that makes sense because like they are coming together, because of a particular belief, something that is, it sort of like forms a logical framework that is consistent, and you sort of like understand that idea is not something flimsy. And of course, they can perceive themselves as superior to the outgroup and whatnot, and that's sort of like where the hierarchy could come into something like that. But you kind of get the point, right? It's not something as flimsy as money or just an arbitrary perception of themselves as better. It's something that is backed by a set of beliefs, a holy book, and whatever other things that might be reinforcing that belief. Now, in terms in you know in terms of when it comes to Bitcoin maximalists, however, again, if these guys were sort of like the type of guys that were trying to say, oh, you know what, we are actually people that will only support, the Bitcoin idea. I mean, the entire idea of Bitcoin is just having a currency that can resist censorship, cannot be controlled by anyone, and is sort of like growing independently of any form of intervention. That's why the protocol was fairly distributed. The coins were fairly mined. Anyone could mine from day one in equal proportions as long as you are contributing that amount of work to the network. And essentially, that was the whole point. That was how it sort of like developed, and that was the whole point of it. Like, it's not controlled by central authority, and you can sort of like have this money that is neutral and can be used across wherever in society, and it can be confiscated. But now, the thing about this is that an idea like this cannot support a Bitcoin only conclusion. It can't support a Bitcoin only stance. And that is why these guys must sort of like create a cultural arbitrary in order to justify a Bitcoin only stance. Now, it's either that or they just blatantly agree to the fact that the Bitcoin only stance is one that is made completely based on price performance. Now, one of the people that actually do this type of Bitcoin maximalism, I can put that in air quote, is Benjamin Cohen. Now, Benjamin Cohen into the cryptoverse, he's kind of like a Bitcoin maxi, but not the type of Bitcoin maxi that claims an ideological high ground. He's someone who believes that Bitcoin is in fact superior to other crypto assets, but mostly due to the fact that Bitcoin itself has just performed better than the others. And he's quite plain about it. He's quite honest about it. He's open about it. He doesn't try to pretend or contort the reality or try to, act like it's something else. It's something beyond just price performance. And that is a type of maximalist that actually, is honest about what maximalism is all about. Because again, the principles that are sort of like guiding what Bitcoin is about would at best make someone a sound money or a proof of work maximalist or something like that. So coins that actually like form and were fairly distributed like Bitcoin are functioning as cash or censorship resistant or proof of work and all of that thing, those kind of coins would fall under the umbrella of what they will idealistically or ideologically support. But they can't, and they don't want to. And that is why, it's not about that. So now, how do they try to pretend like it's about that? Because again, we're going to talk about what the advantages, what advantages are for them if they can actually go ahead and sort of like enforce this classism that they're trying to do with Bitcoin in a bit. But again, so since they can't actually say that, well, Bitcoin only is something that they could back up with any, technical arguments, what they end up doing is these guys, they just go ahead and create what is called a cultural arbitrary. So anything that they can just say to themselves to make themselves feel better, so make themselves feel above the rest of us. And these are buzzwords. A lot of them are just lies, or at best they don't mean anything. At best they're just nonsense. Sometimes they're just, I don't know how exactly I can put it, but they essentially do not have any significant meaning in the context of Bitcoin. For example, one of these things that they say is immaculate conception. So the idea behind immaculate conception is that, oh yeah, Bitcoin was birthed by a founder who essentially just disappeared and never, came public. No one knows who he is, and essentially just left, the entire space, disappeared, and of course stopped doing anything Bitcoin related and hasn't done anything to his wallets in years. And essentially that's been the idea behind immaculate conception. That's kind of been one of the things that they use as their statements that they use to, create their cultural arbitrary. Now, what does it matter that Bitcoin is actually a product of immaculate conception. Of course, immaculate conception is something that they borrow from, Christianity, the word, but it's not. It doesn't kind of. It doesn't carry the same weight. It's not the same connotation. We're talking about a protocol that is ruled by math and code. What does it matter that there's like immaculate conception behind it? What practical advantage does it give the code itself? Does it make the code any superior from that of Litecoin, that is essentially just a copy of it? No. Does it make the Bitcoin send faster? No. Well, what does it do? Does it further secure the protocol? No. Does it provide miners an incentive to protect, to continue to secure the protocol besides what they get from the price? No. So what relevance is immaculate conception to the, from a technical standpoint? What benefit does the idea of immaculate conception for Bitcoin provide? Nothing. It doesn't provide any benefit. So when they say it's just a cultural arbitrary, it's just something that doesn't mean anything, but it's just a way for them to sort of like justify their need to see themselves as above the rest of us, whilst concealing the real fact of the matter, which is that this idea that they're actually perpetuating, this feeling of superiority that they're actually expressing, is one that is entirely reinforced by the price action of Bitcoin. And you can see how they're trying to do this. And this might sound like conspiracy theory, or it might sound like a radical idea, but it really isn't. You can see the type of things that they say. They go ahead and say something like, oh, it's Bitcoin versus shitcoins. Now, what are the conditions that would be met before you classify something as a shitcoin? Or what are the criteria that a coin must meet to be considered a shitcoin? None is provided. Nothing is said. There are no benchmarks that a coin has to meet to escape being a shitcoin. It's just shitcoins. That's all it is. They just call it shitcoins, and that's it. And when they try to classify things into the shitcoin class, essentially they throw something like Litecoin, which is essentially Bitcoin, but was also fairly launched. There was no insider allocation whatsoever, and the founder has, in fact, completely divested from the coin. So when they call it a shitcoin and they bundle it with something like Solana that had a huge pre-mine, or a pre-allocation, actually, because it wasn't mined, at least not in my opinion, it's proof of stake, a huge pre-allocation to a team and a founder and blah, 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 and incentives, blah, 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 blah. And of course, Solana also did have its own issues where, they really didn't know if there were hidden Solana supplies and whatnot. But yeah, something like Solana and something like Litecoin, there's no technical differentiator. They're just all bundled in and just called shitcoins. Why? What is the metric? What are the criteria? What are the conditions that were actually considered before these things were considered shitcoins or whatnot? There's none. And so the entire framework of Bitcoin maximalism rests on a cultural arbitrary, something that is just a combination of repeated mimetics that have no technical base or no significant base. And when you strip all of it down, the only thing that is keeping it up is price. So that is the advantage that is in it for them. That is why they do it. Because now Bitcoin, of course, has sort of like been the safe bet. It's been the market leader for, well, forever, ever since like day one of the crypto industry. Nothing has ever been number one besides Bitcoin. And it's like, maybe, and this is just speculation, right? I'm moving away from a technical argument into speculation. Maybe in the minds of these guys, if they can sort of like talk about these Maxi talk, if they can sort of like, repeat this mimetics and just talk about these things that have no technical meaning, such as like immaculate conception or Bitcoin versus shitcoins or blah, 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 maybe it can sort of like create a self-fulfilling prophecy where people, by extension, decide, you know what? I mean, Bitcoin has been performing, and yeah, maybe immaculate conception, in fact, makes Bitcoin better. Maybe everything is shitcoin. I mean, they don't even need to, they won't even ask themselves why they're calling this shitcoin. They're just going to accept, and, they can sort of like create this, again, like I said, self-fulfilling prophecy, where these people now go ahead and decide to just buy Bitcoin and everything just perpetuates. Maybe that is what they hope, because that is, in fact, an incentive for them. You have more and more pundits that come out and just sort of like repeat this memetics that these guys have sort of like created. You see someone like Michael Saylor repeat them, say a lot of things that mean absolutely fucking nothing. I'm sorry for swearing, such as, Bitcoin is just, I don't even remember, because none of the things he says, or at least a lot of the things he says, actually mean absolutely nothing. They don't even mean anything enough for you to want to remember it, because yeah. And he perpetuates things like this, and you still hear it from talking heads, people that you would ordinarily consider very respectful people in the finance sector, and very logical people that wouldn't be able to, or you wouldn't expect to rally around mimetic ideas without any, technical back-end. But you see them repeat it, and that's the benefit for the Bitcoiners, right? And this is actually targeting some of the big players, some of the heaviest players in this space, people that actually have a lot of money to spend. And so if they can create this classism, if they can sort of like create this class divide between Bitcoin and the rest of the asset class, or the rest of the coins, all the coins, without even thinking about whatever technical justifications or even trying to create one, they can essentially create a self-fulfilling prophecy and sort of like create the conditions where wealthy people would associate Bitcoin with being superior and everything else with being inferior, and by extension feel comfortable only with buying Bitcoin. And it's been working. Like I said, you see Michael Saylor essentially building an entire company that has skyrocketed to hundreds of billions of dollars of valuation on this mimetic alone. No technical justification, just the mimetic of Bitcoin only. And you see more and more people, adopt this idea, adopt this belief. You see, I've seen, YouTubers, major YouTubers, stating this rhetoric, repeated it. I've seen pundits on, CNBC talking heads or whatever the rest of them, this financial analysts and journalists and whatnot, restating these things, repeating these things that mean absolutely fucking nothing. I'm sorry for swearing again, but I have to, because it's actually infuriating. And so it's working. It is working. And the advantage is sort of like been playing out. I mean, look at the cycle we've had. Now, one thing is, I cannot say that the only reason why alts underperformed is one that is actually, result of this class device that they're trying to create. But you can't argue that it doesn't have something to do with it. You can't argue that it did not at least contribute something to why, people just didn't allocate much, or we didn't really see the rotation into alts that we normally see. This is the first cycle ever where Bitcoin maximalism was a popular stance by a wide margin, at least in my experience. And this kind of perpetuated. You kind of had this feeling that nothing was worth anything besides Bitcoin. And should coincidence, it might be coincidence again, but a cycle like this where only Bitcoin performed kind of plays to their advantage, because come next cycle, or should we get into macro conditions where Bitcoin, or where crypto, where it becomes time for crypto to go up again, I mean, people would simply look at the last cycle and see that, oh, only Bitcoin made a new high, even though it's the biggest and whatnot. So maybe only Bitcoin is worth anything, and everyone just reallocates to Bitcoin and gradually ignores the rest of it. It could contribute to that. So that's the advantage. That's the incentive behind why they're doing this thing. It's an incentive behind it, and it's an advantage that you're getting out of it. And that is why you must reject it. You must reject it by calling it out for what it is. These things are, oh my God, what did I do? These things are what they are, just nothing but flimsy ideals that are built on nothing but memetics that mean nothing technically. And so they should be rejected. Now, are they working? Let's see if these things are working. At least I've been able to say, right, it's working. I mean, a lot of people that are, if you're watching this, you've definitely seen a lot of talking heads, a lot of very important people in the space and the economics world in general that have been perpetuating this idea. But is it working on the everyday people? And now let's look at this post that I made, and you can see what people were saying. So now this is from whoever this person is, Tarani Sorect. Now, Bitcoin maxis are objectively a superior class of human, not a joke. This is from a random X commenter. Bitcoin maxis are objectively a superior class of humans, not a joke. 12 likes, 93 impressions. Oh, and this is another one. Why wouldn't the evil Bitcoin maxis let the scam in peace? And maxis want to separate state from money. Contagion effects create class system. Now, this is half true because yes, maxis kind of want to separate the state from money, and that's the whole point of Bitcoin. Or I'd say Bitcoiners want to separate the state from money. But again, if you want to separate the state from money, separating the state from money is really your intention, and not just your intentions are not just trying to perpetuate an idea where you sort of like create the conditions for people to buy only your bag. Why then are you talking about Bitcoin only? Why don't you create conditions or like talk about a type of coins, or just put criterias out for the type of coins that can actually be considered as money worthy? An open criteria, an objective criteria, and any coin that meets it then can be qualified, and then it just becomes a question of which is being adopted more, which one are people actually using more. And then we're going to say, yes, you in fact care about separating the state from the money. But of course, it's not true. It's not what it is. And contagion effect create class systems. Yes, because society, again, in any gathering of humans, class systems must form. It's kind of like how eventual centralization in whatever system, human system, it's kind of like inevitable. It just sucks. It's natural. But at least it should be around something that is technical, something that is actually foundational, something that is like an actual intellectual, or like I'm going to repeat it, technical standpoint, and not just something that is built on a cultural arbitrary. Not something built on, well, price performance. Because again, price performance is weak beyond even the just moral repulsiveness behind just rallying behind something on price performance alone. Price performance is price performance. It's just such a very weird metric. It's such a very flimsy thing because it's something that can easily reverse. It's easily reversible, right? It's not as if an asset that has been overperforming for a decade or 2 decades can just completely reverse that and evaporate all that gains and just move into a cycle where it essentially just underperforms for a very long time. I mean, we've seen this happen time and again in the S&P 500. We've seen this happen across commodities. We've seen this happen in different ways, shapes, and forms. So it's just not a good basis, in my opinion, to form this class system that they're building, and which is essentially my point. So this other person, you say it like it's a bad thing. Scammers should totally be shamed and ostracized. So you see what I'm saying? Where now I'm a Litecoin supporter, and of course, yeah, scammers. It's just a tag word. Bitcoin maxis, scammers. It's working. It's working. People are starting to adopt an idea that anyone that is not a Bitcoin maxi is a scammer, including people that are supporters of fully decentralized, fully totally distributed, fairly distributed coins that are growing adoption, like Litecoin, proof of work coins like Litecoin, something like Monero, right? People would call Monero a scam. You just throw everything into the scam category, alongside this other, proof of stake swap tokens are just copy paste through Ethereum with insider locations. You just bundle them in one class and just throw them away. And you see, it's working. It is working. It's working. And yeah, that's essentially why I'm talking about it. That is essentially why I brought it up, because I've been writing a book essentially that is just centered around this idea, trying to see how Litecoin and the Litecoin community is sort of like created a form of like counterculture to the Bitcoin maximalism. And yeah, I've been forming that. Now, my first article, I don't want to bring it up again because, of course, that article is just an introduction. I'm just trying to form the idea. I'm still trying to observe all of these systems and trying to see how they evolve. And I'm also trying to find invalidation to my thesis. Maybe I'm just the one reading meaning into all of this. There's a possibility that I might be wrong. And so I'm taking my time to see how I can sort of like go through that. But the signs I'm seeing, the things I've been seeing, have actually been reinforcing this idea that this is not just, and of course, there's also a possibility that all of this is just correlation. Again, correlation does not equal causation. There's a possibility that there are other reasons why they behave like this. And then as a result of that, they can sort of like exhibit behaviors that might be mistaken as, forced classism. But again, I don't think that's the whole, I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's just correlations that I'm looking into. But again, I'm open to the idea that I'm just looking at correlations. And again, I continue to prove myself at that. But okay, we've got someone here, UV Star Baby. Shout out to you, UV Star Baby. Oh my God, you showed up. It's so nice to have you today. I'm a Litecoin supporter too. These prices are super low right now, but I suspect the manipulation isn't over yet. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Let me just wrap my whole talk about reject Maxism, and then we're gonna talk about prices and all that thing. I'm so happy you showed up. Actually, it's so nice to have you here. It's like I'm saying, I don't think it's just coincidences that I'm looking at and I'm extrapolating conclusions from. I don't think so. I think these are actual intentional decisions that Bitcoin maximalists are making in order to try to create this class system. I do think, and I cannot, prove an intention, right? Because I can't show someone the mind of another human, let alone I can't even know the mind of another human, let alone have a way of showing people the minds of people. But it just doesn't appear to me that this is coincidence. It does in fact appear to me that this is in fact a very deliberate act to create these class systems, and it is working, however gradually. It is working, however gradually. And if we do not find a solution to it, then these guys will be able to successfully create this class system and essentially just destroy everything that is not Bitcoin from a perceptual point of view. And you just never know how that's going to affect other things. And you might try to look at this as whatever. I mean, the Bitcoin Maxi guys are saying everything else is trash. What does that matter? Who cares, right? I mean, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then if you consider the fact that the reason why diamonds are what we think diamonds are is essentially just a product of something like this that was actually, done by De Beers company. And if you're not familiar with the story, essentially, diamonds are not rare. I mean, that's part of why there's no diamond ETFs or something like that. I mean, I don't know any precious stones ETF, but you get the point. These things are not rare at all. They're very common. And before they used to be rare, right? When they were just found at riverbanks in Europe and, before, this diamond mines were found in South Africa, they were extremely rare and sort of like the epitome of luxury in medieval Europe and other Asian times. Now, the moment that these diamond mines were being discovered in South Africa, it became clear that these things are not rare. And essentially, the prices of diamonds started to fall. And De Beers was a company in South Africa that essentially controlled all of the diamond supply. They controlled all of the diamond supply. They were able to create a monopoly over the diamond supply. And what they did was they essentially started manipulating it. So since they controlled all the mines, they could control the exact number of diamonds that they were releasing into the market. They could control the exact supply at a given time. And they were able to create campaigns, heavy marketing into campaigns that essentially created this culture in America where not proposing with a diamond is essentially, akin to not proposing at all. They essentially created campaigns, they put it in movies where, the whole idea of proposing with a diamond rings started appearing more and more in Hollywood and cinema, and people started associating this as the norm. They made, advertisements that were essentially targeted towards even working class America. So essentially, just some of this advertisements would essentially tell you how many work week worth of wage you needed in order to be able to afford a diamond ring. And so this sort of like created a culture where diamonds became something that was seen as the norm when it came to engagements. And till today, that culture remains. But this was an entirely fabricated culture for an asset that essentially is not rare. The supply is completely manipulated by these guys. And it worked. It worked for a very long time. And it was also around this time they start hearing a rumor such as opals bring bad luck. Because, of course, opal is another gemstone that is actually very beautiful as well. And, they were actually being used, in proposals back in the day. And all of a sudden, it just came out of nowhere. Opals bring bad luck, and opals bring bad luck, and opals bring bad luck became something. And nowadays, nobody is using opals to propose. No one proposes with opals. It's not a coincidence. These things can work. The importance of sentimental value should not be understated. And when people are trying to create sentimental taste and trying to create class systems based on this sentimental ideas that essentially have no backing in anything other than a cultural arbitrary, it is important that we fight back, we push back, and we reject it. It is important because if we do not and we just act complacent about it and sort of like ignore it and think it doesn't matter, gradually, an idea is formed in the mind of people where they start to see Bitcoin is the only thing worth anything and everything is scam as normal. And once it becomes the normal in society, every other thing that does not carry the name Bitcoin, regardless of their merit, regardless of their adoption, regardless of anything at all, would eventually suffer. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of all I want to talk about. Give you a story, baby. Oh my god, how was that? I'm so sorry. I just saw that I saw the tweet from the Bitwise guy, and of course I got supercharged. I just knew I had to talk about it. I'm gonna go listen to this my rant and see if I can pick anything apart from it and see if I can essentially just find holes in my ideas and whatnot. But how have you guys been doing actually? How are you coping? I mean, the prices are absolutely trash right now. It is unbelievable that we see something like this. I probably should bring up the chart, right? Let's look at where we are. I haven't looked at the chart in a while. I did bring it up last stream though. 51. Oh my god, did we drop? Or was that's just from my price history? Okay, we're at 55.3. Ah, still low. Still super freaking low. Oh my god, are y'all here or did I bore you out with my speech? Are y'all still here? So essentially we're about to retest that extremely that we're at the verge of retesting this HTF support that we held for multiple years now. That's where we are. Oopsies, look at that. Boom. I don't know. I don't see this structures invalidated yet, just because we haven't, especially in the 3 month. If I open it to the 3M, I didn't notice price until yesterday, lol, but I was expecting it. Same. I've been saying it on the streams. You remember? I don't know if you were here in like November, December. I think it was December, where I was saying that because of the way we're breaking down against silver, it was a possibility that we, in fact, broke down against USD. We broke down against silver, broke down against gold, and this HTF support was just somehow coincidentally holding up. I knew there was a very high chance we broke down below this, and of course, that's happened right now. We're breaking down below this, but again, I want to say something though. If you notice, I think okay, I think I'm seeing something here, right? The first time we breached this HTF support in any meaningful way, the resulting move essentially broke us out of this channel. It's pretty interesting, okay? And the second time we did it, although it was a week below it, the resulting move took us out of this channel, and we were able to print now the all-time high. Now, if by some miracle this is in fact a reversal, and we find a way to get back inside this, we could get into a move that could take us much higher. That is pretty interesting. If we actually reclaim this, I believe that is what sends us higher. So it might be close, actually. We might be close. Fortunately or unfortunately, I follow someone who's predicting an even worse tip. Oh my god, yes. Everyone is so negative. Like CT is like the worst ever. Like the sentiment is just trash. Like every single where I look, it's just negative sentiment. Besides, of course, like the people that I know, like the people in the community, like I mean, you know, like Bug, like mini million is always bullish, and the rest of them, every other person, morale is just so terrible. Morale is just so down, and people are literally predicting it to go to $30 and predicting it to go to $20 and even $6. Now, I don't think Litecoin ever gets that low as $6. Anything Litecoin staying above this, below this levels, kind of like works in my favor a little bit, because I kind of get a little bit of time to like accumulate a little bit more. But you know, I don't know how long we stay below this resistance zone, this support zone. I do expect. Oh my god, I did not bring my whatever to the stage. I just showed. I was just talking. Why am I autistic or something? I keep doing this. But also that LTC would take off in a couple or a few months. Yes, I think me personally, this is just my personal opinion. Again, all of us that we're giving opinions on X, we don't know jack shit. Sorry, I had to swear, but we don't actually know anything at all about what we're talking about, right? But me personally, I wouldn't be surprised if we grind around this edge just to get people out, in my opinion, for a few more months. So probably until April, we might not break this until April, but we might just grind around here for a little bit just to convince people that the recovery is not strong enough, and to convince people that this is in fact a support, a resistance that we will not break through, and maybe even try to reject it a little bit before we blast through. That is what I expect to happen. Anything that would get some people out is on the table, and it's just something to expect. Although I won't be surprised if we just blast through, but I'm favoring the opinion that we stay sort of like range bound here, kind of like, you know, hug this support line, kind of like hug it for a bit and just convince everyone it's dead before we blast. Do I think we go lower? Maybe. If we do, I don't see a target here, but of course I didn't see one for silver, but we still did it. We still went lower. But I'm not really saying that happened, right? I just think if we go, yeah, where we're going to be going to probably here 20 something, and maybe we tag this kind of like level for a bit. It's a possibility. You can't rule it out, but I don't see that as very likely. But that's just my opinion, right? You never say never. It's crypto, because that can, you know, that can in fact happen, and everything will reverse so fast. It's gonna look like nothing ever happened. And of course, you're going to be, you know, gaslighted again. Another long shakeout. Yes. Another long shakeout is totally on the cards. Yes, I expect something like that to happen, or at least I wouldn't be surprised if it does. I won't be surprised at all if it does. But I've been watching this very, very, very clearly, and I haven't given up on this long-term structure that I've built essentially because again, look at this 3 month. I like looking at it from the 3 month, right, from perspective of the 3 month. Nothing really breaks until we have like up to like 4 3 month closes, or let's say one, two, unless we have 2 3 month closes that are lower than this, you know, I'm not really in a position where I can be concerned that much essentially because this 3 month hasn't closed. Like there's a lot. I mean, we're in February. We've got half of February. What am I talking about? We've got 3 quarters of February and March, the entirety of March, to essentially, do something here. So until I see March close here, June close here, and August close, September close, I don't think I have any reason to panic. So if there's a possibility we even close here for the 3 month and we go back and we're sort of like testing this over multiple 3 month candles, maybe I sort of worry then, but I don't know. I guess you just worry that you're going to get cheaper Litecoins and it's probably going to take a decade before the market event ultimately recovers and goes up. So it's just going to be more pain, for the time being, albeit a very longer time being in that scenario. But yeah, until that happens, I'm not really concerned. I'm not really worried. But yeah. But like the people that you've been seeing that have been like very negative about the market, like are these guys people that are like in like the market? Like are they Litecoiners? Because you know that there are Litecoiners that are talking about Litecoin, like people like Million, like Master, like Strategy, like Aldo, like Discover Litecoin, and these are the guys, Chris and Crypto. Are these guys? Have you been like? Have you been seeing like people like this switch to being bearish, or has it just been coming from other analysts? Because I know that some analysts, right? Because like there's this guy that has been rage baiting Litecoiners for quite a while, and I think I need to pull that up. Let me see if I do in fact have him. And he's been essentially one of who would have been fought in Litecoin. I've been seeing a lot of them that have been fought in Litecoin for a while. And maybe that those are people I've actually been seeing flip, bearish. But what I personally think though is like some of the Litecoin pro guys that I know, we've kind of been softening our bullish tones. It's kind of like we're not that militaristically bullish anymore. It's just like, I mean, price is gonna humble you at the end of the day, and at some point you have to be responsible, right? So you're not just out there, being ultra bullish when the market is bleeding. I mean, the markets can stay relevant longer than you can stay solvent. So, a lot of us are sort of like dulling our bullish tones, so we're not just leading people into, in case we're actually just in a phase where we see, in case we're in a stage where we're still going to see like blood for a few more months. It's just we're not leading people into that slaughterhouse where they end up getting slaughtered for probably an extended time before market recovers. And a lot of us have actually been suffering out then. But have you been seeing like anybody that is like a normal, like a Litecoin community member that actually like very heavy Litecoin community member? Have you seen anybody like that who's flipped their tone and is now bearish? But BTC, okay, this is the guy I'm talking about here. This is the guy that this is the guy I'm talking about that is the anti, kind of like the new Litecoin hater guy. So both BTC and LTC shown start at 100, same starting line, same opportunity. BTC compounds strongly over time in a classic exponential style advance. LTC goes mostly sideways with rallies, but no sustained relative trend. This is opportunity cost in picture. So even when LTC pumps, it fails to keep up on a normalized basis. BTC volatility works for you over time. LTC volatility mostly churns. This is why LTC can feel cheap for years while still underperforming badly. This chart is so powerful because no price anchoring, no denomination bias, just pure relative performance. Opium addicts say, but LTC hasn't moved yet. This chart answers it. It's been moving. It's just not in your favor. Interesting. Let me look at that. Now, that doesn't feel like. Hey, it actually looks like a genuine. Um, actually looks like a genuine observation. Let's look at that. So essentially, Bitcoin's volatility has been compounding over the years, and Litecoins have sort of like been flattened out, and you've been seeing the volatility, but it's not been moving up. So now, I'm not gonna act like I'm technical enough to understand this 100% or in a way that I can sufficiently give a response. But from my understanding, like, why did you choose to go back only 5 years ago? I know it can sort of like sound like, yeah, it's logical, 5 year performance, but why are you going off of 5 years? Why don't you go 10 years? What would change? How would this look like if you went 10 years ago as opposed to 5? Because like 5 is just, I mean, that was kind of like the last time that Litecoin had a rally, so you wouldn't really expect that from between then and now. Litecoin has done anything. I mean, it's essentially not done it. Is this whole point of it? All right, and if you're going back to 2017, it's probably going to paint a different picture because, of course, it had two bull markets then. But yeah, this is just such, in my opinion, a very selective time frame to paint a picture as opposed to something that actually says anything comprehensive about like Litecoin's performance over time. Like this is just selecting a time frame that can actually that actually favors his perspective, in my opinion. Yeah, because then what was the 5 year prior to this? What was it like? And then the 5 year prior to that, because of course Litecoin's been here for like 14 years, I believe. So the 4 year, the first 5, what was it like? The second 5, what was it like? And then of course the final 4, what was it like? And that'll really give you a picture, because this here is very deceptive, in my opinion. And yeah, it's just flat out, misleading. It's just flat out misleading. This has been one of the guys that have sort of been peddling the idea that Litecoin might be on the way to zero tomorrow. No, I follow most of the main pro Litecoiners. They still seem strong, but you're right. You don't want to leave people to get wiped out in these dips. Yes. Honestly, if there's anything I understand opportunity cost. Like a lot of people, and I'm gonna say this from my experience, like 2021 cycle, I bought Ethereum first at 100 and something dollars. I remember very vividly. And when I bought Ethereum, essentially Ethereum went up to like 230, 240 something, 250 something, I believe, 200 something, mid 200s, 270 something. Yes. Over the first few months after I bought Ethereum, because I bought Ethereum at the COVID dip. Now, I thought a lot of people to buy Ethereum at 200 and something. A lot of my friends, and a lot of them bought Ethereum, and they were actually pretty happy until another dip happened. And when another dip hit, and Ethereum essentially did nothing for a while, some of them actually sold below their cost basis and got out. And this essentially soured my relationship with them, because then they looked at me as I kind of like misled them. But then Ethereum is essentially went on a massive run all the way to $4,000 plus. And I was actually telling them that Ethereum was going to $2,000. So Ethereum essentially doubled what I was predicting it to do. Did they benefit from it? No. They couldn't hold long enough to be able to endure all of that volatility, and essentially they ended up losing, even though my prediction was right. And I try to be cognizant about this, honestly. Like, I don't know, it might take up to 10 years, 15 years, worst case scenario, I know that sounds crazy, before Litecoin actually does something astounding again. You can never say never, because the markets can stay irrelevant longer than you're going to remain solvent. So like, can I actually wait that long? Yes, I can. But can others wait that long? I can't say, right? And that is essentially how it's playing in my head. Is like, yeah, I just don't want to be the reason why, they have to go through all that commodity, opportunity cost, and they could probably get obliterated before the asset ultimately performs. So that's kind of like been the idea in my mind. People need to have their own conviction and not invest in what they can't afford to lose on the crypto roller coaster. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm gonna say this, right? I'm probably going to be talking less and less about the charts the more LTC performs. So like the more LTC, once we enter into a bull market, there are price levels that Litecoin is trying to get to that even if I'm talking about the charts, I won't be talking about charts like and saying people should buy. It's just because I just don't. I know like a lot of people are not going to be buying now. A lot of people, like very few people are buying these levels, these 50 something dollar levels. It's like it looks like trust people are even selling here, right? And these are times where I'm okay. I've been telling people to buy since like $100, something below that. A lot of people are going to start buying at $1,000+ when that time comes. I'm not going to be telling people at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Oh, buy Litecoin. I probably would stop. Some people might see that as me not having conviction, but I think I kind of like relate to Charlie in a sense that you just want to be responsible, and not, get people to do things that might actually end up harming them the short term. Because again, at the end of the day, Litecoin, Litecoin is working as intended, from fundamentally solid, nothing ever changed. But LTC's price could be a real bitch. Sorry, I just had to. Sorry. Anyways, I'll be ending the stream in about 5 minutes. Is there anything else you want me to talk about, or I mean, what are you thinking about the? Yes, okay. I brought this up last stream, but I don't really get to talk about it. What do you think about the files? Do you think the files? Okay, I'll be ending the stream in 7 minutes rather, so it's going to be like an hour and 10 minutes of the live stream. What do you think about the files, though? Do you think the files, and the files I'm talking about, the files of the names of the files of the person of whose name I'm not going to be mentioning today? What do you think those? How do you think that actually affects Bitcoin? I want to know your perspective, right? Because I see, oh my God, 3 out of the 5 core devs were being sponsored by the guy. Yes, it's all disgusting. Absolutely, bro. Like just a step away from crypto and a step into the actual things, right? Now, we've kind of like known about this house like forever. I've kind of like been hearing the allegations and the things, the revelations, the witness testimony, people like Virginia Giuffre and the rest of them. I've been hearing them talk about these files, but I did not expect them to be this disgusting. I don't know, maybe I haven't heard as much about these files, of course, because I'm Nigerian, right? It's not really like national interest for me, right? So like the amount of things that I'd already previously heard weren't as much as this, right? But like seeing the files, seeing the things that are coming out of the files, it's like, bro, bro, it's for, and I try to like separate politics and all of these things from this like live streams, but like it kind of, you can't, when you have of this Bitcoin devs wrapped up in it, it's very hard to separate. And imagine the disgusting things in these files and the association. It has to affect it somewhat, but it's not going to take crypto down altogether, my opinion. Okay, I see your opinion. Actually, I actually was of the opinion less stream that it might not affect it long term, and essentially because I was looking at it from the perspective of association might not really have something to do with the idea that I mean, Bitcoin has been associated with Silk Road and, scam and all of these things, and it really didn't affect it. But when I stepped back and I thought about it, like, bro, like what's in those files are not just scams. Like these things carry a different moral weight. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same feeling. It's not on the same, it's far bigger, it's far weightier than just something like, and I'm not trying to minimize, the whole black market and the whole crime relations or anything like that, but like the weight behind Epstein relations. Oh my God, I said it. Yep. This video is definitely gonna get censored. Oh my God, I'm so dumb, I'm so stupid. I said it. the weight behind all of that, Jesus, that's it's probably going to affect something. It's definitely going to be the end of Bitcoin maximalism for sure. I think Bitcoin maximalism might be on the verge of death because, like, Bitcoin maximalism might now start to, carry a connotation that, has this soft association with the files. Yeah. It's the new financial system and it has corrupt roots. Yes. Does this play in the favor of Litecoin though? I don't know. I don't know if it does. Essentially, I don't know if it does. But yeah, I don't know what I think. We're just gonna have to see, right? That's all I can say. We're just gonna have to see what affects, where affects, what extent it affects, and what this is gonna be. I don't think it's the reason why the price is going down though. But is there something that is happening perceptionally? Unless the third wave of the files come out and they say, uh you would think it would play in Litecoin's favor. I thought so last stream. I still, I mean, I see that. I see how we can. I see how we can play to Litecoin's favor. I don't know how much it will. Like, I mean, you'd have to see. I'd have to see more to see that happen. But I see how it can. But I don't really know if it does. But I really see how it can, because like a lot of people are. I mean, Litecoin has no association with the files. I mean, the devs, the foundations were not funded by this guy, and of course, it's not compromised. I mean, Litecoin is kind of like the most scandal, if not the most scandal-free chain in crypto history. The only Litecoin scandal is around the McDonald's post in 2021. A Walmart post, rather, the Walmart partnership post. But essentially, that's all of it, right? Besides that, there's nothing else. There's no other thing. There's no other thing in the whole thing. Like, that's all I can say about it. So I don't know if I don't know if it plays in the favor of Litecoin, but I see a path where it does. If we see more of these people start to like take a stance against Bitcoin and they're looking for an alternative that actually is like Bitcoin with all of the benefits of Bitcoin, just none of the association, Litecoin is front and center of that. It's in the prime position to actually be that, but it's left to see whether or not the market will in fact take that route. But I don't think it's going to affect Bitcoin so much. Yeah, I think Bitcoin essentially moves on ultimately from it, just as it did from the whole scam and Silk Road and all of that associations. But this is a different weight of crime. This is a different. There's a different moral weight when it comes to like the files association. I won't mention his name again. You know what I mean? There's a different weight that comes attached to that. I think that hurts maximalism. I think that hurt maximalism a lot. I mean, Jesus, the devs, bro, whatever. But yeah, that's essentially what I personally think, and I believe it's left for us to see, man. It's left for us to see where that leads us, and hopefully everything works out for the best, and Litecoin succeeds, whatever it is. Anyways, thank you very much. I believe this is now the end of this stream. Thank you so much, Ivisar Baby, for showing up. You know you're special, by the way. Really appreciate you for always supporting my streams and showing up for us to have chats. Very, very nice. It's an honor. Shout out to who else again came today? Seabass LTC. Shout out to you for posting the stream. You're an absolute legend, bro. Muy apreciado, muy apreciado. Heavy appreciation for you, my brother. Appreciate you once again, UV Baby. Shout out to every other person that joined, didn't see anything. I hope we all continue to find creative ways to feel better in this market, and find ways to just structurally adjust our lives in a way that whatever happens in the market does not affect our lives in any way that is negative, at least in the short term. We can be able to survive all of the whatever this probably going to come, or that's probably coming. But besides that, I think now we can call it a day. I'm really grateful that I got to hang out with you guys today. And of course, I will see you guys next week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 5 p.m. EST. You all know the vibe. So with that being said, I want to say bye-bye and good night. I will now be going to bed. Bye. How did it? Okay.